And in the end, I mean, it's like, how are we going to deliver this message? You've beat me up about this a couple of times
Oh,
tonight.
here we go. Hang
No,
on.
no,
I put my duck suit on. I'm good.
no. I'm complimenting you. You just don't know it yet.
Not yet. Thank you ahead of time.
And it's that, it's like I could start out with, there's an axis to the universe of computation. That axis among humans is masculine, female, and the compromises in between. This is the primary axis of all adaptive evolution. When it comes to societies, you end up with the trifunctional system. The civilizations specialize in these different portions of it because it was for these particular advantages. And in producing those things, we all developed something we call law, and which is command law, religious law, traditional law, or empirical law. And that's the different civilizations chose these things because that's what they were able to do for linguistic, conceptual, moral, traditional reasons. And what happened is, from the time immemorial to the present, to 1900, almost nothing changed, right? By the time but everything changed after the Industrial Revolution. And between the Industrial Revolution and 1900, we adapted to that. But after 1900, we adapted to our new condition, which is this vast increase of $3 trillion to $120 trillion in a century. But what happens is that we were no longer constrained by the agrarian era to maintain the compromises between the the true sexual evolutionary strategies and group evolutionary strategies. We were never we thought we were unconstrained from them, and so we let them go. So what do we see in the most equalitarian societies? Women become more female in interests, and men become more male. They don't converge because the oppression was equal. Right. So, but what happened is we, during this whole time period of 50,000 years until 1900, we'd specialized in the incremental suppression of irreciprocity under the agrarian tradition. Well, because of the realities of distributing the work of productivity and childbearing, the suppression of the only people entering the marketplace and the polity were largely men, and so we specialized for 50,000 years or especially the last 10,000 or 7,000 in the incremental suppression of male antisocial, anti-political, anti-civilizational behavior. But what happened is, just as we've let women into the economy and franchise in order to equally compete with men. What's happened is women have just as they've expressed their female preference in the Scandinavian companies because of the most equality, women are expressing their preferences in the broader modern democratic polities. And for that reason, what's happening is we haven't suppressed female antisocial, anti-political, anti-civilizational behavior to the same degree we have suppressed male antisocial, anti-political, anti-civilizational behavior. And that's just a matter of reforming our laws to suppress female antisocial, anti-political, anti-civilizational behavior so that it's possible for us to continue to vary and specialize in our interests without imposing our will on the opposite through various kinds of criminal activity, whether it be antisocial, anti-political, or anti-civilizational. So in the end, this is just a simple contextual problem of evolutionary opportunity we've created for individual personal expression. The problem is that men know men know what is bad because they suppress it in other men. But women don't suppress other women. Women encourage other women. And so what's happened is we let Pandora out of the box without equally suppressing the female behavior. Does that mean only females do it? No, it means that there's a division of computational interest between the sexes, and it turns out to be left, center, and right. And this division of labor turns out to be moral instinct. It's not reason. I'm this way because I'm right. No, it's because you have genetic fucking bias in you that tells you to be that much more masculine or feminine, and your cognitive bias, right? In other words, follow your group strategy. So coming to that end, it's just necessary to increase the scope of our laws to equally suppress what we consider that what originates in the female method of antisocial, anti-political, anti-civilizational crime, right? We just suppress that crime, and whether it be social and moral, political, or economic, or civilizational culture, institutions of cultural production, we cease that, and by ending this false promise that women were oppressed rather than just as domesticated as men, because they're just as bad, and in truth they're worse, because men can kill each other and the civilization can go on, but if women kill the civilization can't go on. And the problem is, as we've seen by Christianity, Judaism, Islam, the female method is extremely good at destroying civilizations. It's destroyed 6 civilizations of the ancient world. It's in the process. It almost succeeded with Christianity in destroying European civilization. And the PC woke Marxist, neo-Marxist, postmodern attempt is to destroy civilization is again through the female method, because it's like sterilizing the population genetically is the same thing as sterilizing its means of reproduction informationally. And so they're basically committing genocide against not only our people, but our civilization. And they've done it successfully so many other places that we can't say it can't be done here. It can be, it is being done here. So when I say, when you want to, my problem is that that's the whole story.
It is the whole story. I
There's nothing else.
I want to tip my hat to you if I don't had a hat, but I don't.
Yeah, but
you summarized that.
Is that story inoffensive enough for you?
That was quite inoffensive. That was an epically good piece of work. I made the time notes.
Well, that's what's wrong. And we finish it off with the Constitution was a constitution of natural law, right? Which was equality, reciprocity, sovereignty, whatever. The problem is it didn't, they put freedom of speech in there without why and what the limit was. They put freedom of religion in there without why and what the limit was, right? It didn't explain, it doesn't explain why the House, the church, the House, the Senate, the presidency, did I say the church already?
Yes.
Yeah. And why those things were put into place. And they don't, I missed one. The one I missed was the one that elects the president,
yes, the college, the electoral college.
Yeah, the electoral college. It's because they're actually stopping the whole point is to prohibit demographic democracy and instead force state pluralism. In other words, you had to get the majority of the countries to approve. Just like Europe has to get pretty much universal approval. Our thing was you had to get the majority of the states to approve. We don't live in a democracy. The whole freaking country was engineered to prevent democracy.
There you have it.
Because democracy is go through history. It's a bad thing. It always ends up in a race to the bottom.
It's all very good.
So the Constitution has like what, 8 holes that I've said, 8 holes, right? 6 that were original and 2 that followed, or something like that, or 3 that followed. And I plug those holes. I say how to fix the law and the economy, right, and the polity, so that men and women don't have to. Our guys' belief is that you have to take women out of politics. I'm like, women are just animals like us, men, right? They just need to know their fucking limits. Will they like it? No criminal likes their crimes. Their justified criminality suppressed. Well, but what is kleptoparasitism? What is female instinct? It's theft, right? It says, I'm due because of my whatever, mere existence, not because of my performance. Well, when women are carrying the burden of children for a tribe, that makes a lot, or a clan, that makes perfect fucking sense, right? Everybody's got to get their share, right? Because we got to all take care of each other because we're living on the margins. But that doesn't mean you don't have rights, that you have rights without duties, obligations, and alienations, right? And total prohibitions, right? It doesn't mean there aren't any taboos. And unfortunately for women, that the problem with their taboo is it means they got to watch their mouths like for almost every syllable that comes out of them, because the women's nature is to lie and deny by substituting what they desire for truth. I mean, they can't tell the difference between desirable and true.
That's right. That's right. So it's a error,
I mean, it's
a
just,
category
well,
error.
it's an animal instinct. That's why I'm like, don't tell me you're equal to men until you solve that goddamn problem. We can listen to you and understand you're being empathic, even if we don't originally see it. But women can't look at the polity and rationally do the same. It's the same thing for liberals. They specialize in harm care and proportionality, right? But they fucking ignore liberty, hierarchy, the hierarchy, loyalty, and purity discussed. They freaking ignore that stuff out the window. So we don't, I mean, conservative means we think about everything. Being a woman, I think about my brood and myself, and that's it. Well, and then they say that they're being virtuous. You're not. You're just trying to get shit for free.
Well, they outsource the working parts, the parts that
Right.
they don't want to pay attention to, they outsource.
Well, I mean, men do the same thing. Men completely discount the cognitive emotional burden of motherhood. Right now, guys in my generation didn't. I mean, I was raised to be, you respect your fucking mother. You have an idea what it takes to be your mother? Let me walk you through what she does for you. I mean, you get enough of those goddamn speeches, you're like, oh, Holy Mother Mary,
Right, right.
so you can train your children to be respectful of their mothers, and to understand that the huge cost mothers pay, and that of course women are going to go out there and want to earn money and get all and attention whore, right, and experience whore, right? They're going to, and socially whore. They're going to do all that stuff because it's hyper consumptive. Is that more fun than working at raising children? Yeah, well, it is. I can't deny it. However, children got to get raised. If you ask me, wouldn't it be more fun to go raiding and pillaging and murdering and conquering? Absolutely. I mean, if I could get the only thing is, business is a legal way of doing that. It's the pro-social way of doing that. But I mean, if I had the opportunity
Sure.
to be Genghis Khan, I'd use it in a moment. I wouldn't even think about it, right? And so it's the guys like me I think about, right? I mean, the world isn't full of you chicks, right? The guys that are able, they think like me. It's just too much to work to conquer you, right? It's easier to just do business and get rich, right, and have everything, right? And so this is the problem, is that we can see the women and they can't see us. We can see the liberals and they can't see us. So
They project their weaknesses upon the people who
strong,
don't agree with them.
right? And so this is all female, right? It's all projection, externalization, cost distribution, right? The whole purpose of the female is to maximize consumption and externalize costs. And it makes sense if you got 8 kids, because you're trying to obtain resources. But the minute, instead of it goes into you and you're fucking virtue signaling, and worse, you start virtue signaling to the political and starving men, right? Or decreasing reproduction, then it's crime. It's just theft. We don't think of it as theft because we've never had to think about it as theft before. But operationally, it's not an opinion. It's not an opinion about whether it's theft. It is in fact theft, right? So I mean, that's what it is. You don't get to impose costs upon the commons so that you can hyper consume and burn down the commons, and instead of producing a generation equally capable of producing the same quality of life for the next generation. So anyway, so I think that's the hard conversation to have. Can we have it as one that doesn't generate too much flame, hatred? I don't know. That's the best story I can tell without losing my temper.
That was pretty good.